Ladies and gentlemen, the banquet of the 2022 Yushan Forum will begin shortly. Please take your seats. It's been a long day, so we hope that you can sit back, relax, and have a wonderful dinner and great company. So we would like to invite you to take your seat, and we will begin the dinner banquet very shortly. Thank you. 各位贵宾，非常感谢今天大家热情参与白天的玉山论坛。我们的晚宴即将开始，有请贵宾尽速就座，谢谢您的配合。Again, we're deeply honored by the presence of so many important distinguished guests. So this has been a very important event, so thank you once again for your strong support for the 2022 Yushan Forum. I would like to invite our distinguished guests to take your seats, and we will begin the banquet very shortly. Thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the dinner banquet of the 2022 Yushan Forum. It has been a long day, and there have been in-depth exchanges of views and insights in the forum. And now it's time for us to sit back, relax, and enjoy each other's company. First of all, we would like to invite the host of the banquet, Dr. Jaushieh Joseph Wu, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Republic of China, Taiwan, to give us his remarks. Please put your hands together to welcome Minister Wu.
Dr. Michael Shaw, Chairman of the Taiwan-Asia Exchange Foundation, the Honorable Peter MacKay, former Foreign and Defense Minister of Canada, who is also going to give us a keynote speech tonight. And we will also have Honorable Nakayama, former Deputy Foreign Minister and also Deputy Defense Minister of Japan, who is online with us and will also give us a speech tonight. And we are very happy that the former Deputy Prime Minister from New Zealand and also former Deputy Prime Minister from Thailand are with us tonight. And tonight we also have two very senior officials with us tonight. One is Wellington Koo, our National Security Advisor, and our Chief Trade Negotiator, John Dunn, who is also a minister without portfolio. And when we talk about minister without portfolio, actually he does a lot, and he's a cabinet member. And we also have numerous distinguished guests tonight. We have quite a few, and we have many from the diplomatic community with us tonight as well. And I would like to say at the beginning, good evening. It is a great pleasure to host tonight's dinner. And on behalf of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I would like to warmly welcome and extend my gratitude to you all for your enthusiastic participation. Today's event would not have been a success without your inspiring remarks and keen insights. I would also like to thank the Taiwan-Asia Exchange Foundation for hosting the forum again this year. We come together at a time while the world is facing unprecedented challenges posed by authoritarian regimes. Russia's invasion of Ukraine and China's aggressive and provocative actions against its neighbors in the region have seriously damaged the rules-based international order. At this critical moment, members of the democratic world must stand in unity to defend democratic values and counter authoritarian expansionism. I'm happy to see that more and more countries, as well as prominent figures like you, have expressed support for peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. I can assure you that Taiwan is committed to working with like-minded partners to jointly safeguard the security of the region and preserve the stability and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific. Tonight, we are honored to have Mr. MacKay and Mr. Nakayama join us as guest speakers. Mr. MacKay and Mr. Nakayama are firm advocates of our shared values and have vast experiences in government. I trust their speeches will conclude this year's forum on a high note. And right now, please join me in giving a big round of applause to welcome Mr. MacKay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wu, for your kind words of introduction. To you, your government, your president, it is a true honor to join you here in Taiwan. And to all of the dignitaries who are here, all the invited guests, a warm welcome to you as well for coming. I know that we benefit from our collective gathering here in Taipei. A special thanks to all of the organizers of the 6th Annual Yushan Forum for this kind invitation. I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to wish you an early, happy National Day to Taiwan. I know that the celebrations are going to be significant. You have much to celebrate, both past, present, and future. I arrived here from Canada to demonstrate support and solidarity with Taiwan and its incredible people. I follow the path of many friends who have come from Canada, North America, and the West, who've traveled to this wonderful island nation. They include a much earlier and renowned traveler, George Leslie MacKay, for whom I share Scottish and Canadian heritage. He was a Presbyterian missionary who arrived here in 1871. He spent the rest of his life here, working to improve Taiwan's people. In fact, he stayed, and he married a Taiwanese woman. He had 3 children. Unfortunately, my stay will be much shorter, as I have a wife and 3 children of my own back home. Another who visited your wonderful island was my father, Elmer MacKay, who came here as an elected MP 40 years ago. And he returned home with fond memories and friendships and experiences that he shared with my siblings and I that he cherishes to this day. Although I must note that democracy was more of a dream at that time. I'm proud to stand at this podium that was previously occupied by former Prime Minister Stephen Harper, who was here and addressing the forum in 2019. He also was followed by Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott. And now we have Winston Peters, who is here from New Zealand, who I first had the pleasure of meeting in 2007 at the ASEAN Forum. And so increasingly, it is clear that your friends are realizing the importance of traveling to be here in this remarkable country, and to publicly standing alongside with admiration and respect to remind Taiwan and its people and the world that Taiwan is not alone and will never be isolated. Taiwan finds itself at the heart of the democratic family, the living expression of democracy as a universal human right, and it is embraced as such. In addition to weathering the effects of COVID-19, for which the world continues to recover, we've recently lived through Hurricane Fiona back in Canada. And I know that you're familiar with catastrophic events and weather events, having just recently suffered through an earthquake. We've also seen in North America a terrible weather event along the Florida coast. But in our case, it caused unprecedented destruction and limited death. But in its wake, it underscores the need for preparedness and for awareness and for community as we face climate change together. My home region of Atlantic Canada, it demonstrated the resilience of our people and highlighted the importance of good neighbors, people with common values, people of goodwill, and the need to draw together in a time of crisis, and support for mutual benefit and common good. It reminded us geographically, physically, and emotionally that it is not only in good times that we discover who our true friends are, but when we are in deep and stormy waters, that we need our friends and good search and rescue. Unfortunately, we don't have the ability, or we don't have to search very far for examples where friendship and solidarity of this type are needed today. On the geopolitical stage, as mentioned by the minister a moment ago, Russia's heinous and unprovoked war of aggression on Ukraine has shown the horror of what happens when global norms and rules are trampled upon or broken, or when basic tenets of the Charter of United Nations are ignored, when permanent members of the Security Council, in words and actions, bring that body into disrepute and irrelevance, and when horrific war crimes are perpetrated against innocent people and communities. The calling of a higher common humanity takes hold. Global governments and citizens must act in solidarity, just as Canada and more than 50 countries from all continents are acting in solidarity with Ukraine and its heroic people in their fight for freedom, sovereignty, and justice. But the fact is, we seem to be moving into an era of bullies and lawlessness, and this requires us all to think in different ways about how we deal with bad global behavior. That has more to do with petulance and a schoolyard brawl than the sophisticated, respectful, and principled behaviors that we've come to expect, or at least hope, from global players. In my experience, bullying ultimately ends badly for the instigator. Bullying provokes solidarity, inspires unity and camaraderie, and there is always an innate need for justice that will in the end prevail. At one level, dealing with bullies is complex. At another, it is simple. Clarity of purpose and common decisive action, solidarity, commitment, all empowers a relentless sense of what is right and what is wrong, and when it comes to the human or human state of behavior. And this is the embodiment of your president and her clarity that she brings to the cause. Taiwan knows what it's like to live in a difficult neighborhood. Taiwan is known as an island of democracy, dynamism, innovation, and growth. It's a place of prosperity and freedom where the creativity of its people has been allowed to flourish and to thrive. It has become a global driver of information, communication technology, its role in the high-tech global supply chains, and of course, the global semiconductor market is legendary. And it is showing the world the way forward in green technology, punching way above its weight. And we're all the beneficiaries of an extraordinary Taiwan. And Taiwan has achieved all of this to its benefit of its people, its region, and the world in the context of a relentless regional political uncertainty, and not a few threats about what will happen if. And yet imagine what Taiwan could do in a more welcoming regional environment. Imagine one that was characterized by respect and cooperation, partnership and friendship, outcomes designed to promote a wider common good, endless possibilities. However, the sword of Damocles hovers over the head of Taiwan. You live in a geopolitical space that is characterized by threats and coercion, demonstrations of political and military force that are designed to project power, not partnership. A meanness and a desire to punish and flaunt power. And I speak of these dynamics with regret rather than anger, as the world has never been more in need of cooperation to meet truly existential global threats like climate change and pandemics. But we continue to see behaviors and rhetoric that draws us away from the bigger game, making a safer and more prosperous place for all. Into the arrogance of aggression and arbitrariness, Taiwan's people have had to learn to live with a neighbor that repeatedly attempts to diminish rights and freedoms as an island nation. A neighbor that seeks to blur or erase the Taiwan Strait medium by flying military aircraft and sailing warships into Taiwan's contiguous maritime economic zones, live fire exercises, mounting incursions into Taiwan's airspace identification zone and with alarming irregularity. Taiwan finds its security increasingly complicated by economic coercion and gray zone activities that are designed to challenge and confuse and to undermine Taiwan. You have a provocative and downright unfriendly neighbor. And Taiwan's ability to prepare for its legitimate defense and to assure the security of its people is informed by the actions of this big, unfriendly neighbor who exercises an anti-access, anti-denial. And that's a strange, strange expression. It sounds an awful lot like special military mission. It's interesting, as I mentioned in speaking about bullies, that the response to this provocative behavior, in my view, has never been more clear. An even more relentless and resilient and determined Taiwan, surrounded by even more determined friends and partners. Winston Peters spoke of how the world needs more Taiwan, and he's right. But the world also needs less bullies. And there's an irony that the behavior designed to intimidate and isolate Taiwan only strengthens it. And while some groups like to boast of having the world's fastest growing military and massive economic engines and potential growth, bully tactics, in fact, are lessening their credibility, making them lose trust and trade and respect among partners. As we've seen with Russia and their illegal invasion of Ukraine, nothing has strengthened NATO more than what Russia has done. But there's no doubt that Taiwan's friends need to also be more to show more resolve and clear in their support, political and practical, to demonstrate that Taiwan is not alone. And we must be loud and clear that Taiwan is an essential partner for democracies and economies around the world. We also live in an era of political surrealism and distortions which make the need for clear speaking even more important. Friendship is not interference. Friendship is friendship. And the friendship that Taiwan enjoys from countries and peoples around the world is derived from the recognition of the reality of Taiwan's legitimacy, its integrity, its culture, as a nation, as a people. It is based on a foundational commitment to building relationships with respect and honesty and acting with restraint to ensure transparency and maintaining open and clear lines of communication. Actions that leave no room for misinterpretation and leave every avenue open for peaceful cooperation. The trade, the people-to-people investments, scientific, agricultural, political ties that Taiwan has with the global community of partners is the living expression of Taiwan's legitimate interests in engaging with the wider world for the advancement of its own prosperity and security and that of others. Many increasingly argue that diplomatic legitimacy and the need to underpin these relations is the next logical step. Modern diplomatic history has taught us that the recognition of the rights of one sovereign entity do not need to diminish the rights of another. And the world is long past this archaic approach to international relations, even while some may cling to it. We need to have eyes wide open, clear heads, clear voices, articulate voices to deal with this morass of Orwellian doublespeak that floods social media and even flows from some governments. Just think of some of the most recent examples. Iran's so-called morality police detained and killed Mahsa Amini, a young, heroic Iranian woman, a heinous act of Iran's persecution of women and youth, a flagrant disregard for human rights. The Iranian government, incapable of accountability or honesty to its long-suffering Persian people, typically has blamed the outrage of Iranian society on others and foreign influence. And as I mentioned, the surrealism of Putin's illegal and diabolical, delusional, self-declared annexation of its neighbor, Ukraine. A territory, a sham and shameful fake referendum being held at this very moment while the Iranian army is retreating from these same territories, the height of hypocrisy. And so we all know in our daily lives, in our occupations, that words matter. So it's increasingly imperative that we speak clearly about untruths and unfacts. As democracies, we know, and we will fight for the right for people to have and express their own opinions, even though as politicians we sometimes may not like them. For people have to express their opinion, and they have the right, when they disagree, to change their government without a shot fired. We know that there is no space for people to have their own facts, and that is why we're here together in Taiwan at the Yushan Forum. We can speak clearly and frankly and convey facts about Taiwan's place in the world as a partner and as a friend. And so as I close, I want to bring a few words about things that we can do differently that give the proper change to the world. And I would argue that there is much that we can and must do to strengthen and deepen ties as a global community with Taiwan. We need to further consolidate Taiwan's role in the global economy, in all our economies, as a trusted partner and a driver of innovation. Canada and other countries can learn so much from you. Our future depends significantly on green technology and green energy to address climate change. And as an Arctic nation, I can tell you we feel that urgency more than most. Finding ways to work more closely with Taiwan is a question of good sense and practical need. The role of Taiwan as an advanced technology state, as a robust, accountable democracy, provides the confidence and the stability that's needed for partnerships of trust in a complex global environment. And even in the recent COVID-catalyzed global supply chain crisis, it has prompted many governments to examine how they can be more resilient and more self-reliant, including by repatriating offshore capabilities, even trying to attract Taiwanese talent and manufacturers. But I say to you, this should not be misunderstood. It's simply prudent planning by governments who are accountable to their publics for their well-being and security. Opening options and space in time of uncertainty and insecurity makes sense. And Taiwan also needs to be further integrated into the global trading and wider multilateral international system. It only makes sense given Taiwan's role as an economic player and a power. Beyond the WTO and beyond APEC, Taiwan needs to take her place at the tables of the International Communication Aviation Organization, the World Health Organization, places where it brings enormous value, added of expertise and capability to the issues required for global cooperation. And increasingly, Taiwan's linkages through trade and access to these international institutions would also increase Taiwan's ability to develop the networks and connections it needs to underpin its own security. And so for countries like Canada, I see enormous potential and a pressing need to formalize and to clarify and strengthen our relationships here in Taiwan. There is a Canadian parliamentary bill recently introduced by a Member of Parliament, Michael Cooper, to establish a legal framework to strengthen Canada-Taiwan relations. Political actions like this are important and symbolic in practical terms as well, to send a strong, engaged signal that Taiwan will be addressed more openly and more broadly at home. And so we must project clarity and determination. Canada should begin and should lead a negotiation of a FIPA with Taiwan, advocate for Taiwanese accession to the CPTPP, and work with like-minded partners for meaningful inclusion of Taiwan at the UN and its agencies, as well as regional bodies such as ASEAN. Taiwan's vibrant democracy and economy need to be seen as central to the peace and security and prosperity of the Indo-Pacific region. And Canada and others, Europe included, should be more resolute in engaging in the collective security of this Indo-Pacific region. Canada and others should also continue to contribute to efforts to provide alternate foreign investment and infrastructure financing that would be an important counterweight in the clear attempts to achieve economic and regional dominance through initiatives like the Belt and Road Initiative. And Taiwan is a resource-dependent state, as are many regional partners. Canada is a resource-rich state, and we should use this capability to find ways to contribute more to stable supply chains for strategic resources like oil, liquefied natural gas, critical minerals, and agri-food products to offset coercive attempts by authoritarian actors. Taiwan needs to be integrated more closely into the rules-based global community. This is increasingly a community under pressure, and all countries, especially smaller and middle powers, benefit and require a world that is based in rules and norms that govern state behavior. Canadians know this as a fundamental truth, and that is why we are deeply committed to fair and just international systems. As I've already noted, we see far too many examples of egregious state and military strength and unbridled ambition, which are confused for leadership and power. Taiwan's security, like our own, is built on the foundation of the rules-based international system, respect for human rights, democracy, and the rule of law. This doesn't mean a system that some would have in some places, so-called great powers, where they decide to rewrite the rules or redraw the boundaries to suit their national interests in a self-declared new era. And finally, countries should demonstrate more regularly their readiness to work with Taiwan in defense and in military exercises. For Canada's part, we had a patrol ship alongside allies at your invitation, and we've taken part in training exercises, military exchanges. The HMCS Vancouver was recently transiting through the Taiwan Strait, the second time in 2 years. And the US and others have demonstrated the importance and commitment to Taiwan's friends to be in a free and open and inclusive Indo-Pacific. And clearly there's room to do more. And so let me draw to a conclusion by congratulating all of you for creating this important venue for conversation and cooperation. Forums such as Yushan are key to the greater understanding as we begin, perhaps belatedly, to understand the fragility of the world we live in. This is a unique platform to build deeper relations between Taiwan and the world. It's a place that is nonpartisan and independent by design. Having had a hand in standing up our Halifax International Security Forum in my home province of Nova Scotia in 2008, which I believe, incidentally, is planning to have a presence here in Taiwan next year, I understand the value of forums such as Yushan. It is a much-needed space for that honest and frank discussion amongst diverse but like-minded voices committed to democracies. And it's a place to look for positive and practical solutions for complex challenges. And so, while I may be a long way from home, I can say honestly I have felt the welcoming spirit and the wonderful kindness of the people of Taiwan, albeit far too briefly. And even though this is my first time here, there is a feeling of familiarity, perhaps due to recounting my father's time here, but perhaps due to the common resonance of island people. There's a song that has become an anthem for the island of Cape Breton back in Nova Scotia. And I'm not going to sing it here because I would clear the room in a hurry. I can't sing as well as Winston. But it speaks of the unique identity that islanders feel. They describe their island as a rock in the stream, and their people as proud as a people have been. And that sentiment captures the incredible strength and resilience of Taiwan, unwavering, unrelenting in the pursuit of protecting what is yours and preserving the culture and unique identity and dynamism so associated with this amazing rock. A bulwark of democracy, a bastion and light for freedom-loving people everywhere. I wish you the very best in every pursuit, and let me express again my gratitude to Taiwan for your gracious hospitality. Shishi, thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister MacKay. Thank you so much for your strong support for Taiwan as well as your wonderful remarks. Please return to your seat. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, next we would like to invite the Honorable Nakayama Yasuhide, former State Minister of Foreign Affairs of Japan, to give us his remarks virtually. Please.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Hear you.
Okay,
Yes,
great.
we can hear you.
Thank you very much. His Excellency Dr. Joseph Wu, the Foreign Minister of Taiwan, good evening. Dear distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Yasuhide Nakayama. Until last November, I was serving as Japan's State Minister of Defense. At the outset, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the people of Taiwan. That is, expressed his condolences to Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. I would also like to express my gratitude for the heartwarming message from President Tsai Ing-wen and for the visit to Japan by Vice President Lai Shin-tok, William Lai, and his condolences. And I'd like to once again thank His Excellency Dr. Joseph Wu, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Taiwan, for inviting me Yushan Forum tonight. Ambiguous policy. There is an ambiguous policy. That is strategic ambiguity. In short, 50 years from now, we will have no choice but to deal with the political consequences of advancing contradictory judgments made by politicians 50 years ago. It means that you are forced into a situation where you are not. My father, it's a personal story, my father, Masaaki Nakayama, was a member of the Japanese House of Representatives in the 1970s. While everyone was in Japan, favor movement of the Japan-China Peace and Friendship Treaty, he was strongly against it. As a result, only 5 members of the Japanese parliament opposed the treaty to the end. But unfortunately, the treaty was approved by the parliament. Japan, which advocates freedom and democracy, unilaterally severe diplomatic relations with Taiwan, which advocates freedom and democracy. Above all, establish diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China, a one-party dictatorship of the Communist Party. This is the implementation of ideologically contradictory policies in political history. As a nation that advocates freedom and democracy, we should be ashamed. Moreover, on August 15, 1945, August 15, 1945 is the anniversary of the end of the war in Japan. At this time, the People's Republic of China did not exist on earth. The Communist China. A treaty of peace and friendship is a treaty made between countries that have experienced war in the past. How would you go to the war with a non-existent country during World War II? I feel a contradiction in the judgment of political leaders 50 years ago when the treaty was concluded. It is no exaggeration to say that the conclusion of the treaty left a stain of the history of treaty conclusion. The People's Republic of China was founded on October 1st, 1945, 4 years after Japan lost the war. Taiwan, the Republic of China, existed during World War II. At the end of World War II, Japan was saved thanks to the words of President Chiang Kai-shek. He said, "Don't pay back your grudges. respond to your grudges with virtue. Have we, the Japanese, forgotten the kindness of the Taiwanese people, the kindness we received? I believe it is time to review the ambiguous strategy that we have continued against the Chinese Communist Party and the one-party communist state. I believe it is time to resolve political contradictions. Otherwise, the ambiguous attitude towards the world's ambiguous strategy, I think it gives an advantage to the autocrats country and autocrat leaders, outspoken, preemptive. Location will change, but consider the current situation in Europe. Ukraine lost Crimea to Russia 8 years ago. The reaction of the world at that time was really cold to Ukraine. Strictly speaking, they may have turned a blind eye. Russia was well aware of the situation. 8 years have passed since then. And Russia is again attempting to unilaterally invade Ukraine and change the status quo by force. And there are many innocent citizens and victims. In addition, due to the possibility of attacks on nuclear facilities and the possibility of using nuclear weapons in the future, Ukraine, led by President Zelensky, is working on undergrounding bases in Kyiv and elsewhere in preparation for enemy interception. Ukraine did everything possible. On the other hand, seeing that Russia has arbitrarily taken away for Ukraine provinces by force and lies, and that it has recognized them, I thought that I should think again about that Taiwan Strait. In addition, an important strategy is how to win strong battles in new combat areas that did not exist at the time of World War II, such as space, cyberspace, and electric warfare. On the 5th, Taiwan's defense minister, Ki Guozhen, made it clear that if a Chinese military plane invades the airspace claimed by Taiwan as territorial airspace, it will regard it as the first attack and counterattack. We all know that tensions are rising. So who is building the tension? It is clear that the Chinese Communist Party and the People's Liberation Army are rising tensions. As you all know about the change of the status quo by force in the South China Sea and the bad acts and actions in the East China Sea that defy the law. I don't think it's strange that the current situation in Ukraine could happen in the Taiwan Strait at any time. During his lifetime, Prime Minister Abe said the following in an interview with me about the Taiwan Strait for inclusion in a book. He said, "I think it was significant that peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait was clearly stated at the bilateral summit between Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga and the US President Joe Biden, held on April 16, 2021, in the Sato-Nixon joint statement, November 1969. There is a reference to Taiwan. This joint statement was significant because it clearly stated that when Okinawa was returned to Japan, Taiwan would be included in the statement, and the United States military bases would be used for the security of the Far East, including the Taiwan Strait. This time, Japan and the United States showed their commitment to work together to protect peace and stability in this region. We have made it clear that Japan will take the initiative and act together with the United States. I believe that the peace and security legislation passed in 2015 is the backbone of this commitment. If there is a contingency in Taiwan, not only Yonaguni and the Senkaku Islands, but also the Sakishima Islands, the collective name for the Miyako and Yaeyama Islands, will become an emergency for Japan. As Deputy Prime Minister Aso pointed out, if there is a contingency in the Taiwan Strait, I think it will go from a state of material influence to a situation that will have a potential threat to Japan's survival. I believe that you too have made great effort in this regard. That Mr. Abe said. And he also continued and he said, he also emphasized that importance of FOIP, which is free, open Indo-Pacific, especially at the Osaka G20 summit, in which China also participated and promised to advance the construction of advanced infrastructure in the Indo-Pacific region. Let us all work together to protect the peace and security and the stability of the Indo-Pacific region. Where we live in a time when truth tellers are hindered. Another thing is that it is also the time to set aside bad things and criticize others. It is very disappointing. Let's regain international common sense. In conclusion, there is no doubt that we are moving from the Cold War era of the 20th century to the updated Cold War era of the 21st century. This means that countries that advocate traditional liberty and democracy should make allies, strengthen ties, and work together in times of crisis anywhere on the planet. Japan and the Japanese people do not regard Taiwan as someone else's problem. Taiwan is a brother and a family, our own problem. As the world becomes more polarized and we must prepare for the creation of bipolar supply chains, it is only natural that Taiwan should be at the forefront of our democracies. Thank you very much. ありがとうございました。谢谢您。
Thank you very much, State Minister Nakayama Yasuhide. We are so pleased that we're joined by like-minded friends to help us safeguard our democracies together. Now we would like to invite everyone to join us in a toast. Please raise your glass. So, cheers! Cheers to health, friendship, and prosperity. Tonight, in addition to the delicacies, the organizer has prepared cheers to our State Minister. Thank you. Tonight, in addition to the delicacies, the organizer has prepared wonderful music for your enjoyment. We will be listening to wonderful violin and cello performances by Ms. Tracy Tsai and Ms. Sophia Hong. The banquet will now begin. Please enjoy. 我们也谢谢今天特别与会的媒体朋友们，麻烦请媒体朋友移步到2楼的制服厅，我们有媒体休息室，欢迎可以在媒体休息室用餐，谢谢。Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy the banquet. Thank you. you.